defense strategy for migrants in the face of the threat of mass deportations expressed by the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. In the framework of International Migrants Day, President Claudia Sheinbaum paid tribute to the nationals living in the United States. The head of state assured that her government guarantees Mexicans abroad a program to simplify the necessary procedures to defend their rights. In this regard, the Mexican Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Juan Ramón de la Fuente, highlighted the efforts made by his government to defend the Mexicans who are facing a threat of massive deportation by Washington.
We are here in El Paso, Texas. I am meeting with the fellow compatriots as part of the whole process of strengthening the consular network. As it has been instructed, the consuls are with us, and not only the Consul General of the Texas River Crossing, and the Consul General of Nogales, in Arizona and New Mexico. They are here in a group of leaders of compatriots and organizations with which we are working as part of a joint effort. And the personal interest that you have in coordinating all these efforts is transmitted, which is advancing fundamentally in 5 directions. The first one is the legal defense strategy for all our compatriots. They are not alone. They will not be alone, and we have the necessary legal advice so that they can assert their rights if required.
Cuba's National Assembly addressed the economic plan and budget for 2025 as the main challenge to be faced in the economic and social model of socialist development. During the first day of debates of the 4th session of Parliament, Prime Minister Manuel Marrero explained that although the plan presented in 2023 shows results, there has not been enough progress. The minister pointed out the blockade, coercive measures and financial pressures as the main challenge to be faced in the updating and improvement of the economic model. Marrero indicated that the government's policy of advancing the de-dollarization of the economy is ratified, despite the partial dollarization schemes of some exporting sectors.
We are witnesses of the political will and the determination of the leadership of the revolution, of our understanding, of the people to transform and solve this situation. Measures are taken, they are analyzed weekly. Many of them are being analyzed every day. Every day, different solutions are being analyzed in order to alleviate the situation of our people.
Cuban Congressman Rolando González Patricio demanded the lifting of unilateral sanctions by the United States and the removal of Cuba from the list of states sponsors of terrorism.
The demand of this National Assembly of People's Power, in representation of the people of Cuba, is that the United States blockade be lifted once and for all, that the government of that country cease its persecution of our economic and financial relations with the rest of the world, that it eliminate the millions of dollars in funds from the federal budget to subvert the internal order and encourage disinformation operations against Cuba, and that the country be removed from the arbitrary and unilateral list of state sponsors of terrorism.
In Colombia, the second discussion of the healthcare reform called by the government in the House of Representatives takes place. The government affirmed that a decision is necessary despite criticisms from the opposition and independent sectors since the reform has been discussed for months. These extraordinary sessions will end on Thursday and 62 articles are expected to be approved. Previously, the Legislative Technical Unit of the Congress stated that such reform to the health system should be managed as statutory law and not as an ordinary law due to the impact it has on the rights and health of Colombians. The Legislative Assembly of El Salvador approved a budget of $9,663 billion for projects in 2025, which could lead to a deficit in health and education sectors due to budget cuts. After voting, the legislative certified President Nayib Bukele's idea. However, opposition parliamentary members described the initiative as inefficient due to the recent financial cuts for social programs. On the other hand, economic experts assured that an increase of $2 million in teachers' salaries does not meet the requests of the sector, since the measure will only represent an increase of $3.70 per month. The approval, as this amount means more funds for the armed forces and for the official propaganda of Bukele's government. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro held a meeting with the country's newly elected criminal justices of peace. During the meeting, the Bolivarian president highlighted that the current Venezuelan constitution celebrates its 25th anniversary in the midst of great challenges and the strong determination of the Venezuelan people to defend their democracy and their highest constitutional values. President Maduro emphasized that the electoral process to elect the justices of the peace last Sunday was significant because it marks a milestone in the 25th anniversary of the Venezuelan constitution. This electoral process was the greatest proof of an example of Venezuelan participatory democracy.
First of all, I want to express my happiness because of the historical moment that we lived on December 15th and as we're living today, and I want to express my congratulations and blessings to all the judges, the justices of peace, elected by the popular vote, direct and secret. 28,000, around 28,000 justices of peace and justice. That will start with their work.
Moreover, the president of Venezuela stated that with the elections of the justices of the peace, a new era of democracy has begun.
We are opening a new age of democracy in Venezuela, 25 years exactly, to build the basis, the foundations of a new democratic age, a new political culture. And we have to make it that way because of historical need, historical conviction, because it is part of the structure of our Bolivarian being, Republican being, to build a republic that is for the people and that belongs to the people and with the people as the main character.
The draft resolution entitled Human Rights and Unilateral Coercive Measures presented by Cuba and Russia to the United Nations has been approved on Wednesday by the Third Committee of the United Nations General Assembly with 131 votes in favor, 55 against and 0 abstentions. In this regard, the Foreign Minister of Venezuela, Ivan Gil, highlighted the importance of the document, stressing it emphasizes the rejection of the imposition of coercive economic measures that hinder the development of peoples and are contrary to international law, the United Nations Charter, as well as the norms and principles governing peaceful and commercial relations between states. Furthermore, Hill underscored that the resolution specifically urges the powers to lift such measures which have negative extraterritorial effects and violate the sovereignty of states, as well as the right of peoples to their socio-economic development. The issue of the humanitarian Crisis in the Gaza Strip returns to the United Nations Security Council amidst persistent Israeli attacks against the civilian population. The 15-member body heard humanitarian representatives shortly after the authorities confirmed that the number of Palestinians killed exceeded 45,000 after more than 14 months of the Israeli offensive. The representatives of these humanitarian organizations denounced that the aid missions led by the United Nations to the northern Gaza province are mostly rejected by Israel, preventing access to vital resources for the Palestinian population. The call is also to facilitate the work of United Nations and humanitarian partners who seek to provide food, water, healthcare, and other critical assistance with the aim of protecting the affected population. The Israeli army continued its hostilities against the people of Lebanon despite the ceasefire declared 3 weeks ago. Zionist army tanks moved from the town of Markava towards Bani Hajan in the south of the country, shelling homes in the southern part of the town. Authorities said that Tel Aviv forces carried out shelling in villages and detonated bombs on buildings. The mayor of Nakuda reported that at least 70% of the village has been destroyed as a result of hostile Israeli aggressions since the beginning of the truce on November 27, 2024. In Mozambique, the death toll rises to 45 and almost 500 people were injured following the passage of Cyclone Chido. According to the new report of the National Institute for Disaster Risk Reduction and Management, the cyclone affected more than 260,000 Mozambicans. It was also reported that some 35,000 buildings were completely damaged, while some 12,300 others suffered partial damage. The Institute warned that these figures are provisional as the damage is still being assessed. Rescuers in Vanuatu are facing to locate survivors from a powerful earthquake that has killed at least 14 people in the Pacific island nation. The 7.3 magnitude quake that struck the capital Port Vila on Tuesday reduced buildings to rubble, triggered landslides, and knocked out power and telecommunications. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said it estimated that about one-third of the archipelago's population of some 335,000 people had been affected by the worst effects of the quake. In this context, Australia and New Zealand have announced the deployment of medical and rescue teams from Wednesday to provide assistance.